Hey everyone, it's Josh here. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you everything there is to know about setting up your very first Google Ads campaign, adding your ads to it, and understanding how to use the platform. Now, while this video isn't going to go super in depth into everything there is to know about Google Ads, it's my hope that by the end of this video, you have everything you need to know to actually get started using the platform and to be not scared of the interface. Advertising platforms like Google can be a little bit intimidating at first, but it's my hope that by the end of this video, you're going to be equipped with all the knowledge, tools, and skills required to get started creating your very first campaigns in Google and getting your ads running. So without further ado, let's jump right into it and get started. Now, an assumption we're going to make here is that you've already created your Google business account and have signed in successfully. This is required because to actually run ads on Google, you have to have a business associated with it. So I highly encourage you to go do this first before we get to this step. But if you have that and you're all ready to go, we can start right away creating our very first advertisement campaign. Now, the first thing that Google is going to ask you is where should people go after clicking on your ad? This can either be your website, consider what we're advertising and enter the most relevant page of the website, or the business profile for our business. Now, in my case here, I'm going to hit your business profile, which is optimized for my ads. And we're going to hit next, and it's going to scan our business profile. After that, it'll say, thanks. People come here after they click on your ad. We can see what that looks like on mobile and on desktop. And if we hit the next button here, we can continue to go through the process, and we're going to say, what's your main advertising goal? Now, this is really important because depending on the option you pick here, it will actually influence how Google shows your campaign. Now, in these different options, we can see get more calls. Now, this is if you have a business and you want to get more people calling you. Get more website sales or leads. This is something that somebody is going to get redirected to your website and actually make a purchase on. Get more visits to your physical location. You just want people to actually come to where you are physically, or get more views and engagement on YouTube. Again, starting off, we're just going to click get more calls and hit the next button. Next, we'll start off by writing our very first ad. It'll say headlines. Adding 3 headlines or more will help our ad perform. I'll say, look at this. Look at me. And look at us. Now, these 3 headlines are going to give Google a little bit of diversity when it comes to showing off your ads. And we can see that as we're already starting to type things in here, on the right-hand side of the screen, it's actually showing us what a potential for our advertisement to actually look like could be. We can actually go through and cycle through our ads here and see what those look like. And now if I go down here and I say description 1, this is a description for my ad. And then I'll say this is another description. And as you can see here, as we're starting to build out our first advertisement, we can actually see on the right-hand side of the page what this might look like. Look at me, look at this, look at us. This is the description for my ad, and we can cycle through it here. And we can see a call button in our ad. Now we can actually put in our phone number here. In my case, I'm just not going to do that in this case. So we'll hit next, and we'll get to the next screen. Whoa, now those aren't actually allowed to be in there. Now, it's very important when you're actually showing your advertisements on Google that you purposefully know what you can and can't include. In my case, we can see that punctuation and symbols that can't be included are things like all caps, exclamation points. Those are things that violate Google's advertisement rules. Now, once I hit that auto fix all button, it's going to actually remove all the exclamation points. But typically, I highly encourage you to go through and review what Google's ad policies are and what makes a good ad. Because in our case, if we put something in all caps with an exclamation point at the end, not a lot of people are going to click on it because they're going to think it's spam or clickbait or generally something that they don't want to actually go to because it might be a sketchy website. We want people to be engaged and click through to whatever we're offering. In our case, even if it is just all capital letters saying, look at this, look at me, look at us. Now we do actually have to add in a phone number here, so I'm just going to add a phone number and we'll hit next. Now the next stage here is going to be to add keyword themes to match our ad to searches. Now, what does this mean exactly? Well, think about it like this. When somebody is searching on Google for something, they're not going to be typing in exactly what the title of your ad is. Rather, they could be typing in something that's related to the services that you're offering. So you want to grab onto that, even if it is just a small piece, directing people from what they were originally searching, which could be something broad like software or restaurants or TV shows or movies, etc., and diverting a small portion of traffic over to you and making sure that your ad gets put in front of the right people. So in my case, because I originally set up this business as a software company, it's actually gone ahead and added a whole bunch of keyword themes like software company, app development, corporate software, etc. Now I can actually go through and click and add all these different keywords here, but for the best results, it's best to limit it between 7 and 10 keywords to make sure that we're not overexposing our ad to too many people. It's our goal that we can have a big enough audience that there is enough people to actually show our advertisement to, but not so big that we don't actually end up getting our ads in front of the people who we want them to be in front of. By setting up our keyword searches and refining our ad, we can make sure that our ad shows up in front of the right groups of people. but just not so many groups of people that aren't going to be interested in our product that it gets drowned out in all the other noise on Google. So in our case, we're going to actually go and limit our keywords down here and remove this so that we've got some solid keyword themes. Next, we can see the language we're actually going to advertise in, English, French, etc. We can actually go and hit the next button. Now, before we get too far into this Google Ads tutorial, I do just want to give a quick shout out to a pretty cool tool I've come across called Voluum. It's spelled Voluum, and it's actually a pretty cool ads tracking software. I'll leave a link to them down in the description below, but if you're looking to level up your ads game to the next level, they're definitely the one to go with. Now, let's get back to Google Ads. The next thing it'll ask us is where do we want to show our ad? Now, in my case, because we're doing a test video, I just picked a random location in Canada, and it'll actually set up a proximity around where that business location is. And this is when we originally set up our business profile, not when we were creating our first sets of ads, but it'll actually have that proximity around us where we can see, all around the area that we actually have on our business profile. And we can either increase or decrease the range. So say we want to have it be increased from 25 kilometers or the miles associated with that, and we can bring it up and do that. We can just say, yep, we want to either do a large area, or what we can actually do in our case is if we don't want to have it be in proximity to our business, say for example, we're a business based on the internet where it doesn't matter of the location where the person is actually viewing from, what we can do is hit this button here that says advertise in specific zip codes, cities, or regions. And now if I do that, it's actually by default going to add all the cities around where I've currently got the business set up. But let's say I don't want to do this at all. Say I want to do it in just countries. We're going to say, United States. We're going to say United Kingdom. We'll say Canada. And we'll even say South Africa. Now, if we actually look at the map here, we're going to see in blue where we're actually showing our advertisements off to. Now, it's important to note that your ad shows up to the people in locations you have set up. So if you're someone who wants to get business close to you in proximity, it's probably smart to have it be in the cities adjacent to you, but not so far out that it's going to be a chore for people to go. Because again, the more people that you're going to be showing this to, the more you're going to be spreading yourself thin. If you're a business that's based in one city, it's probably best to only highlight the 8 or so, or maybe even a maximum of 10 cities around your location to actually show off to, especially if this is your first advertisement campaign and you have limited funds and resources to start out with. With that being said, we're going to move on to our next step here by hitting next, and it's going to ask us to actually set a budget to get the results we want. Now, we can see the different budget options here that it's set up for us, having an $8.30 daily average, $252 monthly max. We have a recommended limit, and essentially, the more that you're paying, the more people that are going to actually see your campaigns, and the better your campaigns are going to perform, assuming you've got your advertisements set up correctly. Now, in my case, I'm going to do the recommended for you option, but we also have the option here at the bottom to actually go through and enter our own budget, and we can actually, crank it super high or set it here. But in my case, I'm just going to choose this recommended for you option, and we'll hit next. Now, before we actually go ahead and create our campaign here, let's review everything one more time. We can review our campaign to be sure it's right. This is what it looks like on the side. It'll say, look at this, look at us, look at me, the description for my ad. It's going to slowly cycle through each of the different ad variations that we set up, because again, it's better to set up 3 variations so that Google can test each of them and you can see which ones are better performing, which ones get most clicks, which ones don't get as many clicks, etc. We can see we've got our advertisement set up, we've got our keywords, descriptions, locations, budget, etc. And we're all ready to get started. Now, all we have to do is hit this next button here. And if we click that, we're going to confirm the actual payment info. Now, before your first campaign goes live, it's going to ask you one very important thing, actually setting up a payment method. So for this, we can set our payment info, and we actually have to create a new payments profile, which if we click on this here, we can see that if we're signing up for a business, choose organization, otherwise choose individual. This is for businesses, corporations, registered corporations, or use it for individual, for a personal or sole proprietorship. Again, just depends on what your specific needs are. We can choose the organization name, what our legal name is, where our zip code is, and we can actually go through as well and set up our payment method. We'll be charged on the first of each month or anytime the balance exceeds the amount in the billing threshold. Now, depending on whether you're using an organization to actually set up your Google Ads or an individual plan, you're either going to see a $50 charge put on your credit card just to make sure that you're verified with a proper payment method, or a $10 one. Again, it all depends on your specific needs and preferences. Great, we've got our very first campaign set up and we're all ready to explore the AdSense dashboard. Now, your screen here might be actually a little bit different when you actually get to your Google AdSense dashboard, because in your case, you would have actually gone ahead and created that advertisement. Now, in my case, because mine was a whole load of gibberish, I'm not going to see any of that here, but for you, you might be seeing something that says in 1 to 2 days, Google is going to review your ad and see if it gets approved. And if it does, your ad will be turned on and live. Now, in my case, I didn't actually do that, but despite that, I'm still going to show you everything there is to know about the Google AdSense dashboard and all the different buttons and features here. It's a little bit overwhelming at first, so I want to give you an idea on how to do it, even if there isn't that campaign here, and making sure that you can actually manage all of your campaigns, advertisements, budgets, etc. So let's get right into that. So from the Campaigns tab here, this would be the place that we could actually create our very first campaign. In our case, we would have already created one, so you should see it right here. Now, this is where we can actually see Google Ads, the diagnostics insights, which will tell us and help us set up our very first campaign. And we can actually set up a campaign in our account. Now, for all time, we can actually view what our campaign statistics are for the dates. And if we go through here on the side, we can actually see other bits of important information regarding our specific advertisement campaigns. Under the Conversions tab, we can see things like the summary, the amount of conversions we've had. We can set up conversion tracking to track the customer's important actions, such as online purchases made after somebody's gone through and clicked on our ad, the mobile app downloads. Now, of course, that would be if you're actually specifically advertising an app, and calls to your business. Essentially, this is a way of tracking how well your ads convert. If you're not familiar with the term conversions, it basically means somebody clicking on your ad and actually going through and doing the action that you are advertising for. So say if you want to get more people just to view your website, that would be considered a conversion. If you want somebody to go onto your website and pay for something, that would be a conversion. And depending on your specific metrics that you're actually tracking those conversions with, Google can actually allow you a couple different options to actually have all that stuff laid out very clearly. We can see things here like value rules and all that, but we're not going to get into that today. This is just to give you a brief idea of how to use the actual AdSense dashboard. So we'll keep moving down to the Tools tab here. We can see things like planning, keyword planning, performance planning, reach planning, app advertisement hubs. There's a lot of information here, but we're going to quickly brief through all of it. Keyword planning is the different types of keywords to actually understand who you're advertising to. What keywords are you trending for and where your ads are actually showing up. So in our case, we can discover new keywords that can help us reach people interested in our product or service and get search volume and forecasts so that we can better understand how to create better advertisement campaigns. And on the AdSense dashboard, that's what a lot of these tools do. If we go through Performance Planner, Reach Planner, App Advertising Hub, and go to things like Audience Manager, Exclusion List, Audience Manager is essentially where we can create the audience that we're actually going to reach out to. Who are we advertising to? Again, there's a specific group of people in mind we should be creating our ads specifically to be targeted towards, and we want to reach those people. So what do those people do? What are their demographics? How old are they? What do they do for a living? What are their interests? The type of people who would see our ad say, wow, that's cool. Click on it and then convert. In this section, you could see things like your audiences, the custom segments you have, combined segments, your data insights, your data sources, and settings. And because we don't have any audiences yet, say we wanted to create our first one, we'd hit that plus icon there. We would type in our audience name and we would add custom segments, people based on their search activity, downloaded apps, or visited sites. Your data basically means that if somebody has seen our advertisement before, maybe they've lingered on it for a few seconds or actually gone through and clicked, but didn't actually convert, how can we show more of our ad to that person? You might have noticed this before if you've gone and clicked on an ad and then gone off of it. You would have seen those ads for a couple days or even weeks after because those ads would have been retargeted to you and you would have been part of that specific advertiser's audience. The next thing would be the interests and detailed demographics. These would be all the different types of things that your audience would be interested in. If we clicked on here, we could see add in-market segments, life, we could say sports. And then if we type in sports here, it's not just going to give us sports, it's going to give us everything there is to do with sports, and we can go and click on any one, whether they just be broad or specific. But I think in my best case, I would go for a little bit of both, because again, we don't want to be targeting too many people, but we don't want to be targeting such a small group of people that nobody sees our ad. We want to target somewhere in the middle and find that sweet spot where we have the things that are interesting to those people, but then the things that are going to be really interesting for the specific subset of people that we want our ads to be shown to, who are most likely to convert. We also have the option to exclude people, making sure that there are certain people that are never going to see our ads because we know they won't convert, and we can narrow things down by demographics as well. Now, at the beginning of this video, I showed you how to create a smart campaign, but now I'm going to be showing you how to create a very in-depth, detailed campaign in Google AdSense. Now, in this, all we have to do to get started is simply hit the Create button and hit Create Campaign. From there, we're going to choose our campaign objective, much as we did with that smart version, but have much more detailed of an idea on how to actually create this ad. Now, in our case, sales, leads, website traffic, we know exactly what we want to do. So we're going to say we want to actually generate some leads from this. We click on that, and we can select the campaign type. Now there's a couple different options here: search, performance max, display, shopping, video, and demand gen. Now these are all different and will show up in different locations, but just to start us off, to keep it simple, we're going to do search, but I highly encourage you to look at and think about all the different options that you think could appeal to different people. Where would the people who want to benefit from the product or service that you are advertising, where would they be? What websites would they be on? Would they be on videos, articles, etc.? Figure that out, and this will allow you to have much greater of an in-depth idea on how to actually reach that person. In our case, we're going to simply hit search here, and we'll go next, and we'll say select the ways that you'd like to reach your goal: website visit, store visit, or app downloads. Well, in my case, website visits would be what we'd be tracking, and we put in our business website here, and we choose our lead conversion goals. Again, this is specifically going to be customized to us because we selected lead generation. But depending on which one we select, we're going to have so many different options on how to actually make this the most tailored to our specific needs. So in our case, for our lead conversion goals, we'll say form submissions from our ads, and we'll name our campaign Lead Search 1. We'll hit continue here, and the next thing will be actually focusing on where we want to bid. So when it comes to the bidding, we can choose the actual metric that we want to focus on: conversions, conversion value, clicks, impression share. In our case, we're going to simply click conversions, and if we want to choose a specific target cost per action, meaning the cost that we want to pay at a maximum to actually get that conversion, all we have to do is hit this check mark and enter our target CPA. In our case, we're not going to check that, and we're simply going to move on to the next step. For our campaign settings, we can either choose to include it in Google Search Partners network or the display network, or exclude it by unselecting this checkbox. We can choose what locations we want to actually show it, the languages we want to actually have it, and the audience segments. Audience segments are, as I mentioned earlier, the specific people you have in mind who want to be reached by your campaign. Now, because defining the perfect target audience for your Google Ads campaign could be a whole other video in and of itself, we're simply going to put a basic thing. But just to remind you, we want to find that sweet spot between a large number of people who would be interested, but maybe not would convert on our product, and a small group of people that would definitely click on our product, but there just might not be as many of them. Where we find that sweet spot in the middle is where we find the best and most effective advertisement campaign. So in my case, I'm just going to choose something very, very specific. I'm going to say people who like fishing, and we'll click anything that is related to fishing. So we'll say fishing equipment, boats and watercraft, trips to Key West, trips to Miami, sporting goods, camping and hiking equipment, trips to Fort Lauderdale. And again, with this, we've actually defined some broad keywords such as, fishing, and smaller keywords such as trips to Fort Lauderdale. And again, we have more options to support this by choosing to match broad keywords, which may not be specifically related to the ones we just set, but could still help us reach the maximum number of people that we want. Now, in our case, we'll select on, and we'll hit next. We'll put in our keyword suggestions and keywords and all the things we did earlier. So these would be all those things like fly fishing and all those things we want. We could enter our products or services that we're advertising so that Google knows what sort of advertisements we are actually running, and who are the people who have done it in the past, who have had successful advertisement campaigns, and who did they reach. After that, once we put in all of our details here, we'd go through a much more complex version of what we did in the smart advertisement setup in the beginning, where we would enter our headlines, descriptions, the site links we want to have, what our callouts are. But because I've already given you the simplified version of how to set up your first ad using Google AdSense, we're going to move straight on to the next step, which is your budget. This is where you can simply put your average daily budget for this campaign. So what if we said $7? Sure. Advertisers in my country, in the case Canada, commonly use a budget of at least $15, and for the States or for the United Kingdom or wherever you may be actually creating your advertisement campaigns in, you will get a recommendation from Google on what is the most effective, on average, actual daily ad spend to make sure that you're reaching the most amount of people for the best cost. So I'll listen to Google in this case, and I'll say $15 here, and we'll hit next, and we're ready to review. And finally, assuming everything was set up the way we wanted it to be, all we would have to do is go to the bottom right-hand corner and hit Publish Campaign. Google would typically take 1 to 2 days to review our advertisements, and once they were ready and approved, they would go live and be good to go. This is where you would actually be able to go and see all the information about your campaigns. So if we say Save for Later, we come back to our Campaigns tab here, and this is where we'd be able to see all of the data regarding our campaign. The cost per click, the click-through rates, how many people are actually being shown via impressions, etc. For that reason, this is the most important screen because your campaign overview is actually going to show you everything there is to know about managing and understanding your campaign. The only thing you have to do now is create your first one. So if you follow along closely, you should have created your very first smart ad gone ahead and actually gotten access to the Google AdSense dashboard and then created your very first in-depth Google ad. I'm hoping that you have everything you need to hit the ground running and have all of the basic skills and knowledge required to create your very first Google Ads and ads campaign. Now, feel free to go around and play with the website and go through the different processes. There are a ton of different options that I didn't get into today as we barely scratched the surface. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, my name is Josh Mountain, and I'll see you in the next one.